Part 1. The lightning rod effect. Listen closely. There is a quiet, dangerous illusion woven into the very fabric of our modern faith, whispered in the hollows of cathedrals and echoed across Sunday morning sanctuaries around the globe. It is the unspoken myth that when the creator of the cosmos truly sets his gaze upon you, when he places his divine calling upon your life, the seas will simply part. That the storm clouds will shatter into sunlight and your path will suddenly be paved in soft, unbroken peace. Allow me to pierce through that comforting veil. That is rarely, if ever, how the weight of the anointing truly behaves. In truth, stepping into the slipstream of your divine calling is not a retreat into comfort. It is akin to climbing to the highest, most exposed peak of your existence and driving a massive iron lightning rod directly into the soil. You are not outrunning the storm. You are actively calling down the strike. So many believers hold fast to the idea that a true God-given anointing acts as a magnet for universal favor and worldly ease. But peer deeply into the ancient scriptures. Look at the turbulent tapestry of history. Look at the very landscape of your own life right now. True anointing almost always attracts conflict. If you are watching this and you have been secretly wrestling in the dark of the night, asking the silence, why did my life suddenly become 100 times harder the exact moment I surrendered? The moment I decided to fully obey? Then lean in. This message was forged specifically for you. We must bring this out of the shadows, because if you lack a lens to see what is shifting in the unseen spiritual realm, you will inevitably draw a tragic conclusion. You will believe that heaven has grown silent and abandoned you. You will think you have wandered off the path, when in reality, the divine is actively, fiercely confirming your steps. Hear this truth. Hell does not waste its ammunition on the ordinary. The enemy slumbers past the complacent, but he ruthlessly targets that which God chooses to elevate. If you long to know whether you are simply enduring the friction of a difficult season, or if you are caught in the painful, glorious crucible of divine elevation, you must look for these 5 profound markers, the signs that you are, in fact, dangerously anointed. Part 2, the unseen front line. Consider the first profound marker. You find yourself standing on an unseen front line, facing sudden, entirely unexplainable spiritual warfare, and mark that word carefully, unexplainable. You have opened no dark doors. You have stumbled into no grand moral collapse to find your world suddenly under siege. When you carry the luminous, heavy weight of an anointing, your simple, quiet obedience is no longer just faith. To the kingdom of darkness, it is treated as a declaration of open war. Have you ever woken from a full night's rest, only to feel a bone-deep, inexplicable exhaustion? Have you ever felt a sudden, suffocating emotional gravity drop onto your chest in the middle of a perfectly mundane afternoon? I assure you, these are not mere biological misfires or coincidences of the mind. The ancient text of Ephesians 6:12 serves as our ultimate anchor to reality here. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. When the physical surface of your world looks perfectly still, yet your spirit feels as though it is dragging itself through miles of thick, freezing mud, it is not an indicator of your fragility. It is the definitive proof that your calling carries immense tectonic weight, and the unseen realm has already locked its sights upon you. The enemy does not expend his energy as attacking you for where you currently stand. He attacks you for the territory he sees you are about to take. Part 3, the quarantine of preparation. Then comes the second marker. You begin to walk through the vast, echoing expanse of the wilderness, the deep quarantine of isolation. For so many traversing this path, this is the most agonizing chapter of all. When the divine anoints you for a specific world-shifting task, he almost invariably separates you first. Suddenly, the warmth of long-term friendships begins to cool and drift. Conversations turn hollow, forced like echoes in an empty canyon. You stand among the very people who knew you best, yet you feel entirely and profoundly misunderstood. It feels indistinguishable from rejection. But allow me to reframe this painful solitude for you. This isolation is the masterclass of God. Look at the poetic, haunting truth hidden within Hosea 2:14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, will bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfort to her. The Creator removes you from the noisy, distracting theater of the crowds, so that finally you can hear the frequency of His whisper. Think of the ancient titans of faith. Think of David breathing in the damp, cold air of the hidden caves. Think of Joseph sitting in the absolute darkness of an Egyptian prison. To the watching world, their isolation looked exactly like a tragic abandonment. But in the grand architecture of heaven, it was pure, unadulterated preparation. God must strip away your reliance on human applause, separating you from the noise, to teach your soul to depend on His voice and His voice alone. Never forget this law of the Spirit. Heaven always isolates the vessel it intends to elevate. Part 4, the battle for the control room. And then the third tremor begins. You experience relentless, blinding attacks on your mind and your emotional core. When the adversary realizes he cannot strip the anointing from your spirit, he pivots his strategy. He bypasses the perimeter and goes straight for the control room. He goes after your peace. He will attempt to flood the corridors of your mind with a crippling, paralyzing anxiety. He will sow seeds of relentless overthinking and deep-seated imposter syndrome, waiting for you to freeze in doubt and abandon the very ground God has already given you. Look at the prophet Elijah. Here was a man who literally summoned fire from the heavens, executing one of the most breathtaking miracles in recorded history. And in the immediate aftermath, the psychological warfare was so suffocating, so intensely dark, that he fled into the barren desert completely broken, asking the Creator to simply end his life. The battle for the territory of your mind is terrifyingly real. This is exactly why the urgent command of 2 Corinthians 10:5 echoes through the ages, demanding we take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Enduring an assault on your mind does not mean you are a failing, weak believer. It means you are engaged in active, high-stakes spiritual combat. But here is your unbreakable anchor. Philippians 4:7 promises that the peace of God will stand like an immovable military guard over your heart. If your mind is constantly under heavy fire, it is because the anointing you carry has become a massive, undeniable threat. Part 5, the mercy of a slammed door. This brings us to the fourth reality that challenges everything we crave about progress. You encounter bizarre, unyielding delays and aggressively, mercilessly closed doors. You have fasted in the quiet hours. You have poured out your soul for specific horizons. You have knocked upon the heavy wood until your knuckles are bruised and bleeding, and still the door simply will not move. It is an infuriating, deafening silence. You begin to wonder if you have become blind to God's guidance entirely. But I ask you to adopt a radical, higher perspective. More often than not, every harsh no from heaven is simply absolute protection, wrapped in the bitter disguise of rejection. Proverbs 16:9 reminds us of this delicate dance. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Sometimes the Master of the universe directs your steps by dropping a solid brick wall directly in your path. He will mercilessly slam the very doors you begged him on your knees to open, because from his vantage point outside of time sees exactly the ruin that lies waiting behind them. Never lose sight of the ultimate authority described in Revelation 3:8. He is the architect who opens doors that no human hand can shut, and he shuts doors that no force on earth can pry open. If the divine is pulling the brakes on the momentum of your life right now, let him. He is slowing your velocity to temper your steel, to build your structural integrity. Because a promotion that arrives before your character has the strength to carry it will absolutely crush the legacy he is trying to sustain for your future. Part 6, the unbreakable anchor. Finally, we arrive at the fifth marker, the grand paradox of the chosen. In the absolute dead center of your pain, you discover an unbreakable, entirely irrational purpose. no matter how blinding the warfare becomes, no matter how vast and silent your isolation grows, you simply cannot throw in the towel. You may find yourself weeping on the cold tiles of your floor. You may scream at the ceiling in pure, unvarnished frustration. You may look at your hands and feel genuinely, utterly unworthy of the mantle placed upon you. But somewhere, woven deeply into your spiritual DNA, a fierce, glowing ember absolutely refuses to be extinguished. The Apostle Paul captured this unbreakable, resilient spirit perfectly in 2 Corinthians 4:8. We are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. Carrying a profound anointing will never magically erase the pain of the human experience, but it will do something infinitely more beautiful. It will take your darkest pain and infuse it with a profound, eternal purpose. Part 7, the reality check outro. But now, I ask you to lean in closer still and listen with absolute clarity. For here lies a dangerously thin edge where many genuine, well meaning souls lose their way. Everything we have just journeyed through is a fierce spiritual reality. Yet, we must navigate this terrain with profound, grounded wisdom. We must resist the temptation to over spiritualize every single friction and inconvenience of our mortal lives. Hear me well. Not every closed door is the shadow of a demonic adversary. Sometimes it is the stark, quiet result of our own poor planning, our lack of discipline, or a failure to hone our craft. Not every season of painful isolation is a divine wilderness meant for spiritual preparation. Sometimes our character has simply grown toxic, and the Creator is trying to prune away our jagged edges. And please hold on to this truth. If you are navigating the dark waters of chronic, debilitating anxiety, suffocating panic, or severe mental exhaustion, do not simply dismiss it as spiritual warfare. So often, these are profound psychological and physical fractures brought on by burnout, requiring professional counsel, true rest, and medical intervention. The Creator gave us healers, doctors, and therapists for a profound reason. Walking the path of the divine is not a curse. Stepping into the gravity of your calling does not mean your life is destined to become a tragic, exhausting theater of constant, shadowy attacks. It is, in fact, the magnificent opposite. To be deeply rooted in Him means that even when the flames rise high, and even when we stumble through our own human frailties, He provides a supernatural, quiet peace. He grants a razor-sharp clarity of mind and the exact, precise measure of strength required simply to take the very next step. He did not summon you out of the dark just to crush you beneath the weight of a divine assignment. He called you to experience an abundant, overflowing life and to wield an unbreakable peace, standing straight and tall through the very eye of the storm. If you are finally ready to stop running, if you are willing to endure this beautiful, refining fire with maturity, taking absolute responsibility for your footsteps while placing your total trust in His grace, I want you to make a quiet declaration today. Leave this mark in the comments below. Lord, sustain my anointing and give me your peace. And if this journey we've taken today has offered you the light and clarity you have been searching for in the dark, make sure you subscribe to Bible Built. Because here we are not merely curating motivational words to pass the time. We are unearthing the deep, ancient blueprints of true biblical transformation. I will see you in the next one.